be
Here
the
we are.
ugliest.
We're here. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's the fun show. We're going to have so much fun today.
Hey, Kira Miner is back in her seat. This
What's
is
the date?
wonderful. This is the April 23rd edition of the Fun Show, and we're blessed. Well, I'm particularly blessed because the last time Kira was here, I was in California.
You were.
So
We suffered
I
without
get
you.
to sit next to Kira again. It's a big thrill. And over there, tinkling on the keyboard, is Michael Salad. Or should I have said the Kira keyboard. And
What happened out in California?
well, a couple of nice kids got married.
Oh, what about you? Did you meet any nice people out
I
there?
did.
Did you go dancing?
I met some distant relatives,
Good.
and things were good. I took a wonderful tram ride up to the top of a mountain. The tram, the most interesting thing, other than it went 8,000 feet, was that the tram rotates as it goes up.
Oh.
And the funny thing
Interesting.
is, the shell of it doesn't rotate. So the people hanging on the bars at the windows, they don't realize that they're going along, and they sort of stack up. And they look at the person that they're running into as if, why are you crowding me?
That's pretty funny.
Anyway, so no, this was a nice couple. He works for Tesla,
Ah.
and she was, until recently, the head writer of a show called Last Man Standing.
Yeah, I look at it from time to time.
So it was interesting, and they were distant relatives. This was my third cousin.
Okay.
So we were the elders.
Your mother was a better
Nice.
writer.
Huh?
Your mother was a better script writer.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
You vaguely remember some of those Tom Mix
I do.
scripts, right?
Very nice.
Tom Mix was a radio cowboy,
Okay.
although he was a real life cowboy. He was a radio cowboy. And show ran for many years and was sponsored by Ralston Purina Company. And my mother wrote all the Tom Mix radio
And they
shows.
were
Cool.
terrific.
But,
They
Nice.
really were.
that's where the term soap opera comes from, because in the days of radio, the shows were owned and written by the advertising agency, so they were owned by the sponsor, you know. And what was it? I think Milton Berle was Texaco or something like that, and things. So many of them were Procter and Gamble, you know, Tide, and that kind
Yep.
of stuff. Thus, the term soap opera.
Okay.
Soap opera
Interesting.
comes from who owned the show.
Okay.
Anyway,
know.
so that's it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out to you that in 2 weeks from tomorrow, there will be an election in Brookline. Now, it may not be quite as important as the election in November, but in Brookline, it's very important. And it's particularly important in the case of the Brookline School Committee, because we need to restore the school committee to the hands of people who believe in and respect students and teachers and education, and take it out of the hands of the people who are captives of corporate education with their expensive centralized tests and such. And therefore, I want to remind you in 2 weeks to vote for these 3 candidates for school committee in Brookline.
We all got
And
cards.
I'm waiting for the
Well,
The zoom in.
I'm waiting for the Zoom. In any case, Jennifer Monopoly, David Perlman, and Jim Swain.
There we
Jim
go.
Swain,
We're
who was
zooming in.
actually my son's
teacher.
teacher, yes. And this is not a matter of incumbency, not a matter of anything. Just remember that the school committee we have now is the school committee that hired a third stringer to be superintendent and built the ugliest school ever built in the United States. Thank you.
And what about the? Yeah, but you don't.
And that'll be
What
that.
about? Are they for the override?
Huh?
Are they in favor of the override?
Everybody's in favor of the override,
Not
except
me.
you.
Yeah. Well, it's more money in taxes that go out for old people too.
True.
Okay.
True. But, you know,
Okay.
But
Eventually,
you know what? Who cares? Eventually, old people will be dead, so it won't
That's
matter.
it. Old
Boom.
people will be dead. They're not sending any kids into schools.
and eventually, they will either be borrowing against or selling their house,
Yep.
and
We'll be
and
glad
they
to
will
see.
get a lot of money because of Brookline property values, which are entirely and completely tied to the quality
Yeah,
of
but
Brookline
what if old
schools.
people want to stay, keep living in Brookline?
Well, you know, the funny thing is I discover that you only get one shot a year to apply for your elder exemption on your property taxes.
Yeah.
I'm 75 years old,
I never applied.
and I've
for
never
it.
gotten around to applying for it,
I never applied for it.
which means both of us are already paying more taxes than we have to.
Look at that. Why don't you apply for it?
Because it comes at a very awkward time of the year, and you can only apply once a year.
Right.
It's almost like changing your health insurance or something.
Okay. It's a chore. They
it's-
don't make it easy.
It's when they send you the first estimated tax bill, you have to apply for it, and the rest of the year you can't do it at all.
Okay.
It's really weird. Anyway, so on the happy news department,
Go ahead.
there's
Is there happy news?
yes, there's
Okay, wow, who knew?
there's another British prince.
Oh, yes. Little boy.
Yes.
Yep.
Another,
That's good.
and his sister and brother came to the hospital to see him. And
What, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, something like that?
big kid.
Yes.
kid.
Big,
Oh,
healthy,
yeah.
Big healthy kid, which kind of surprised me.
Well, the
All
queen
of the
likes
kids have been.
kids. She
The
likes
queen
it.
likes kids and corgis.
She just turned 92 herself, I
Yes,
believe.
and
So
seems to be going strong.
I know.
Yeah.
She's like 92.
But
Mike is very
her
young.
dogs have died. Some of her dogs are dying off. You know.
Well,
Well, she'll
dogs
just
don't live
replace
as
them with
long
more
as
corgis.
92-year-old monarchs.
She'll just
Speaking
get
of
new corgis.
speaking about elderly queens who are no longer with us, Barbara Bush passed away, and she had a fairly substantial funeral service, and apparently the Bush family asked the President of the United States as a special favor to not show his face at the place. So he does what he does best. He went and played golf instead.
Yep.
So that,
And made it seem like it was his idea not to be there.
And 700
Not that he
children.
was asked.
yeah, well, they're good at lying there.
Oh, of
They're
course.
particularly good.
700 children were taken from their parents trying to enter the United States illegally. They
awful.
They actually
It's
have taken
despicable.
the little kids.
At one time.
Well, what they do is
Well,
they
they
come
keep
to the
ta-
border and they separate the children from the parents
Yeah.
till they figure out what's going on.
And-
That can be up to, you know,
And they're
3
trying
days
figure
to
out
4 months.
what this is all. They wouldn't own up to it. The border crowd.
No, but it's increasing. They're not getting, you know, there's too many numbers.
You
You
mean
know.
INS?
What are the legal ramifications of something like that? Taking the little kids away from the parents.
Well, eventually, given the fact that the current occupant's proudest claim of his entire presidency so far is that he appointed a right-wing fanatic to the Supreme Court. And what happened last week? Neil Gorsuch voted with the progressives against his deportation policies.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Right.
I
And
didn't.
you know what? He was so stunned.
Yeah.
He blamed it on Congress. He didn't even criticize the court.
Oh, well, he did say something about I nominate a conservative and he votes liberal. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You knew this was going to happen, though.
Did
Well,
you-
I don't know if you knew it, but I had a feeling.
DJ never heard of Earl Warren, right?
I don't know who's Earl Warren.
Earl Warren, the Warren Court, this is the Chief Justice of the
Great
most liberal
America.
Supreme Court in American history, who was appointed by Dwight D. Eisenhower
Eisenhower.
as a
Okay.
conservative.
Gotcha. Who then became the most.
As a Republican
Okay.
governor of California, very conservative, and became the head of the most liberal court. I mean, civil rights.
What did,
and
Okay.
what did
everything
President
else.
Eisenhower say?
Eisenhower actually, strangely enough,
He
was
said it was the
perfectly
worst.
happy.
He said it was his worst choice. Something on that. He did.
Well, Eisenhower would be a flaming liberal today.
Today he would.
You know.
Okay.
So
What
they-
else you
It's
got?
amazing how the word has changed.
Yes. Then we have this guy who decides that the proper dress for for racist terrorists is naked. I guess he just wanted to make sure everybody knew he was white.
Okay. Everywhere. White
Took off his
everywhere.
pants.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
really, really white.
And they caught him today, in case people haven't heard. They
But he
did,
had put pants on.
They did. He had. Yes, he had put some pants on.
Yeah.
But
Are you sure he did? He put pants on, or they put pants on him before
No,
the
no.
cameras got
he
there?
apparently put pants on while he was on the run.
Okay.
He apparently had an apartment down there or something.
Right.
Anyway, this kid was formally stopped in a secure area of the White House. We don't know why he wanted to see Trump. Was it to kiss him or to shoot him? I don't know.
Way back when?
Well, Trump was in it. Wasn't
No,
that
but-
far back.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this occurred early on in the
Yeah,
presidency.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I just want to make sure I had the right thing
And they
in my
took
mind.
all his guns away.
Yeah.
And then his father petitioned to get his property back. And they were given back to his father, stupid move one, on the promise that he would keep them secure and away from his son. And he now admits that he promptly gave them all back. And those are the same guns he used for these killings. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure this kid will never see the light of day again, although I think it will be in a mental
Dad's
institution.
going to get some accountability here, for sure.
But
Accessory.
Dad needs to go to jail.
Dad's going to have some problems here.
That's what I
But,
think.
Yeah, he definitely will.
But as I admitted to Kira, much to her surprise, this is a good case for every single victim of this shooting to sue Dad and break him down to the fourth generation. You know?
This coming from the man who despises tort and attorneys. And,
No, not
you know,
attorneys.
not-
I
yeah,
don't believe in tort law.
You don't believe in tort, but you know, you've not had positive things to say about attorneys much.
But if you
So to have you admit this is just deeply gratifying.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's true, but under these circumstances, if I find a 12-pound sledgehammer laying around, I'm going to pick it up and use it. You know, so-
what about the Southwest airline flight?
That is heartbreaking.
You got that on there?
No, it was.
It was an engine that exploded.
Yes, it was an engine that
And
exploded.
this poor woman
And
was.
the most surprising thing when you stop and think about it is that it happens so seldom.
Well, that's what the paper said too.
And the pilot of that plane was great.
And a woman.
And a woman.
And a woman.
And the first woman naval combat fighter pilot.
Fighter pilot, right?
But
So
she was so
she's the right
calm.
person to be flying that plane in that moment.
Nerves
That's
of
for sure.
steel.
She was so calm.
She did her
She's saying-
job.
They're saying, so how is your plane? Well, some of it's missing, so I have to slow down on my approach. I have holes in the fuselage.
You know, not that the passengers are freaking out, screaming, crying, carrying on. I mean, that was just the woman of,
And half of them live streaming it.
yeah. It's just,
Yes.
I mean, times
she-
have changed. You don't
Yes.
get to have a catastrophe with no one watching. You get a front row seat
Everybody
to this.
pulls out their phone and records it.
You know what? I immediately would do that myself, or turn to somebody and say, "Get your phone out." Like you know when you don't want to not capture a moment. It's better to it turn out to be nothing and you delete it than it be something that you missed out on, and then it's the only proof you have.
Microscopic cracks in those. What do you call them?
Fan blades.
Fan blades.
Fan
You
blades.
can't see them.
But they have to
They have to
inspect
use
it.
what is it? Ultrasound to show these.
Metal fatigue is the general phrase
That's
for
it. You got it.
And now they've had to cancel all kinds of flights where they inspect every plane. And it hits Southwest extra hard because Southwest only flies one kind of plane. They don't have a diversified fleet. All
Really?
their planes are, I'm going to get it wrong, but 737s or something,
Yeah,
and they're
I
all
think
the
that's
same.
it.
Yeah,
So,
good enough.
you know, it's a tragedy, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, she was
you know.
good. She was good.
And
I think the The children and the husband of the 43-year-old woman who was sucked out the window probably thought it was absolutely the worst thing that could have happened.
It was terrible.
So,
I agree with you.
and I feel bad. I keep thinking about it. It is absolutely. I mean, I've sat on.
They
enough
pulled her
planes,
back, but
but she didn't. I mean, there's blood everywhere. It was just like absolutely gut wrenching to know that I could be sitting in a seat near a window someday. And
yes.
I told you know, in the future, all future flights, I don't want to be anywhere near the wing, or nowhere near the engine or the wing.
No window seats.
No window, you know, like that was it.
Okay.
It's the same thing though with that plane where it dropped altitude and all the people that weren't in their seatbelts flew up and hit the thing, but everybody who was in their seatbelts, nothing happened too.
That's why they say keep your seatbelt
And that's
fastened.
exactly it. And that's all it takes to see, you know, see these things and learn from them.
Well, coming back from California, I had the worst flight of my life.
Oh, we have to hear.
Entirely personal, but I had changed it at the last minute to save myself 11 hours sitting in airports.
Fair enough.
And under those circumstances, you'll take anything. I took a middle seat, and I ended up in a middle seat of a row of people all my size.
So you had a squishy
And it
time.
was hell.
Everyone just the whole time.
Well, to get up.
was like this.
How many hours was it?
About 5.
Were you able to
So
stay
you
sitting the whole
suffered for
time, or did you had to
5.
get up?
I usually get up and walk to the back of the plane about every hour.
Yeah.
But there was this woman on her tablet in the aisle seat, and I swear that woman would have stayed there. So after like 4 hours, I said, look, I'm sorry, I got to get up.
Okay.
But she would never have moved.
No, because she was content, and you know, when I settle in, I really settle in myself. So I get that.
My only consolation is she will die from blood clots in her legs.
From not walking. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Which will straighten things out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Big TV Unrehearsed Thespian Society's presentation for today. Culled off near the top of the vault. This takes place only about 8 years ago.
Well, it's more. I changed the date.
Oh, you changed the
You just
date.
making
All
the
right.
stuff up?
Yeah.
In any case, its title, I really can't tell you much about it except its title is Vicissitude. Vicissitude. And you can decide at the end whether it in fact is a definition of vicissitude or not.
But you won't forget that title. That's it.
Are you
Okay.
sure?
Action.
Well, he finally made it.
The house with the lawn and yard.
His wife and kids love it.
Well, so far.
No friends.
Takes time.
And a lot of patience.
She needs a car.
Yeah, for shopping at least.
Music lessons, Cub Scouts, soccer.
Kids need transport.
Well, it is a long commute to work.
But this is the suburbs, man.
The promised land.
And gas prices? Oh, boy.
Mortgage interest and taxes climb.
He bought it for $150,000 recession price.
And to him, it seemed like a fortune.
Everyone else is doing it.
Be a homeowner.
Optimism is endemic.
President says the economy is recovering.
Now is the time.
But the war is not going all that well.
He flew over to meet the troops in India.
Guy could get laid off, you know.
Bills, bills, bills.
But he's in the suburbs.
Yep, the American dream.
For Congress battles over Congress.
There's always another job.
It just drags on.
She goes back to work.
Nothing new there.
Kids love the Idols show. I think it's reality TV.
Local pubs, dull things.
Grass doesn't look so green.
And
suddenly.
now it's nightmare time.
Kids' obsession is tiresome.
News and media don't let up.
Day and night and day, but at least the election's over.
And new babies are nice.
Breakup comes a week later.
And then mom and dad can start to worry.
Things aren't happening.
They're losing self-confidence.
And the payment pile just keeps getting higher.
Gloom descends.
Papers full of teenage stars.
And what about going to university?
Well, state college anyway.
Sure, and affordable.
Funny headlines.
Funny, not from Iraq and Afghanistan.
We nailed money bags. Karzai.
Is it all coming apart?
You know what we need? More adult behavior.
No more finger pointing.
Show some grit.
Take a job, even if it's in China or India.
Too much adolescent behavior.
Nose rings, tattoos.
And every time a rapper falls down,
And the world gasps.
Meanwhile, credit cards max.
so outsourcing is not so freakish.
A childlike view.
It's cheaper 10,000 miles from here.
But some of us like living here.
In our own little home.
With our clothing styles or lack.
How about our bizarre makeup?
All the friends we've made.
Clubs, church, school.
Belly button rings?
So we'll relocate.
The wife and the kids won't budge.
Al-Qaeda despises all this stuff.
I see movies with this plot.
Veils and shadows better.
Breaking up is hard to do.
Pop music is deafening.
Pop music is deafening. Yeah, I think it is. Dance is exhausting.
This, sir, is a different America.
But a book about rap?
Hope is alive.
Well, the president is upbeat, at least I think.
Polls are better.
Kids know the lyrics to new songs.
Urban security counts.
So many pressing problems.
I hate rap language and testing.
Oh, come on.
And texting.
Show a little compassion, will you?
It's global.
Whales are in trouble.
Oh, now you're not serious.
What about Janet's wardrobe malfunction?
These things happen. Ancient history.
Think of it as fashion, self-expression.
Artistic license, but bigger fines.
Maybe condos are better.
Well, I like all those nasty talk shows.
President DeVeep adamant about bipartisanship.
But partisan consensus only.
Well, the state election results were a lot of fun.
Very interesting.
Outside of the box, of course.
It's still lovely.
What about suburbia?
We've got our own troubles.
Well, what about jobs?
That old song again?
I once knew a guy from Hoboken who complained that Congress was broken. When the election was over, he spilled beer on his sofa, and then a friend told him he'd been fired.
Blackout. Yay! Yeah, I'm not really sure on that last line, though.
No, well,
Maybe we can work on that.
that's
It's meant to be that way.
It's priceless. It's okay. Get it.
I guess I
ain't
failed. I guess I
priceless.
failed to sell it.
yeah.
You did. I was waiting for you. Sold the first 2 lines and even the sofa, but the fired. All right. Well, hey, no. You know
You
what?
gotta look at the
Artistic
whole
license.
thing,
I
see,
get it. I
okay.
get it. Forgive me.
Actually, I probably needed to take more pride in it before I began in order to sell the
Yes.
joke, you know,
Thanks.
on things. So, I have another person that I'd like to see in jail since I'm on an upbeat mood,
Okay.
and that is Mark Zuckerberg. I would like to see Mark Zuckerberg spend the rest of his life in a lonely jail cell
Wait a minute, how
with
many-
I don't
no
agree.
computer, with no computer attachment.
Does his wife inherit some of those billions?
She has control over it while he's in jail.
I'm sure.
Okay, I feel better.
She's
All right.
comfortable.
You feel better?
She's comfortable.
I want
By
to
that
see.
point, she'll have a kid or two, too.
Okay.
Well, it's very funny because, as you know, I've been to at least 53 Harvard commencements
See.
in my day. And in all those times, I have walked out on one commencement address only. And that was Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh.
He had nothing to say.
Really?
Nothing to say at all.
What about his birthday?
I mean, the most
He didn't write
articulate he's ever
anything
been
out?
in his life was in his testimony. But here's the sad thing about.
You really left during his speech.
Oh yes, he had nothing to say.
Well, so
Well,
he's
it
just
was in
standing there. What
English.
was he doing? Standing there going, what was he doing? Or just talking about nothing? Are
He
you
was
just
talking. He couldn't even make a good joke about being a Harvard dropout.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it was
remember
just,
that, yeah.
it was pointless. But if you saw him testifying, you can imagine how poor it was. And here's the sad part. During his several hours of testimony in front of the United States Congress, he was $9 billion richer at the end of it than he was at the beginning of it.
I believe
And
it.
he's bragging about it.
Somebody said to me, well, fine him $100 billion. I said, that's like 8 months' income.
Yep.
You know, it makes no
He says,
difference.
sure, I'm rich. He says, why shouldn't I be rich?
His,
Exactly.
you know, his company is worth more than probably 60% of the countries on Earth.
True.
You know,
Well, what
Well, he's
about,
going to grow into quite the philanthropist at some point.
Then we got
It's
this.
interesting that he hasn't, given that his
It's-
contemporaries have.
Well, and
you
that's
know?
part of that's again the maturity thing. I think that's coming.
You know, we got this a nuclear plant down in Plymouth that's getting ready to shut down, and the paper tells us that the nuclear waste is in dry casks, 25 feet above Plymouth Bay. They have it on concrete, the waste, and
What does that mean, 25 feet above Plymouth Bay?
Like on concrete.
if the water comes up, you know,
They
because of a
won't be
storm,
dry anymore?
what?
They won't be dry anymore?
Well,
After
that's
25
that's
feet,
that's
it
what.
won't be
Yeah,
dry
but they
anymore.
don't. They say it's fine, no problem, even if the water comes up over them.
Well, our major problem with nuclear energy is that, try as we might over the last 25 or 30 years, we haven't found anybody who would take a waste storage area.
No.
You know, we proposed it in mountains in the West and
Down south.
And the people in the West, they seem to be willing to sell the environment out for almost anything.
Anything.
But not this.
No,
Not
because
this.
this
Not
one's
this,
hard to sell to
okay.
the people.
Huh?
You can't sell it to the people.
Right.
Okay.
And yet the funny thing is that the people who vote against this vote in favor of nuclear power.
Well, you know, voters aren't actually, you know, deeply intelligent about what they're voting about
Right.
or
So
why.
they elected a
as we
president
know,
who looked just like them.
exactly.
Oh, there were two people that won the marathon. You know.
There were. You know
You
what?
know- you know
there
the
are two
names.
people who win a marathon every year.
Yeah. What are
Every
they?
year.
You didn't mention their names in your list.
That's right. I didn't.
Okay, then I
Because-
won't either.
Probably for the same reason. You can't remember them either.
I'm like, I
I
don't
wrote
know.
it
I
down,
remember
but now I
about
can't
them. It
find
was
it.
two women.
No.
Oh, well,
A man and a woman. The
man
man
and a
was
woman.
Japanese, I believe.
Yeah.
And the woman was American.
Yes.
And she had
Oh, the second woman
she
was.
had previously finished. The second woman was probably the best performing African in the entire race. The Africans just totally crumped under those conditions, which is sort of explainable because
Yeah.
they don't have an ounce of baby fat on them. But in any case, this woman who had finished
conditions were
second
brutal.
before,
Yeah.
you know, she slogged through. She kept coming back. She slogged through. She, in all probability, never would have won except under those
Exactly.
conditions.
Exactly.
But she beat
Didn't
those
matter.
conditions. It was great.
It was the conditions that
Yeah.
she, you know, that was what
was great.
everyone was fighting. It put everybody on a different playing field.
My friend ran his 25th consecutive Boston Marathon, and it took him like 5.5 hours.
Oh.
He was beat up. You know, even those two winners, they were so beat up from that race,
Oh, it was
they couldn't even
awful.
be interviewed.
No, I can't imagine. I
the
mean,
cold and the
it
wet.
was brutal.
Cold, wind in your face, pouring rain. It was.
But they did say that there were no emergencies, so cold is better than hot. Like no life-threatening emergencies. They
Okay.
had hypothermia. They had to
Yeah.
warm
Okay,
people up,
alright.
but they did not have
Yeah.
to rush
The
anyone to the
tents-
hospital.
The tents were full, but that's true.
No, it was
That's true.
because I was wondering which is worse, hot or cold, and in this case, hot is worse for runners.
Yes, well, the other thing about it was many, many, many more quit.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
So if they tried to finish,
Yeah.
they might have been the emergencies.
You're right.
Yes.
All right, my friend, lay your fingers to it. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams.
Good night, Irene.
Good night,
This is
Irene.
the
Good night,
clearer
everybody.
keyboard
From the
we're playing on.
fun
But he
show.
said that at the beginning.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm repeating it.
Oh, it's okay.
From
It's
the
not
fun
about me
show
anymore.
here at Big TV in Brookline. We will be back next week. However, for those of you who actually watched us tonight, you have the pleasure of knowing, or the distinction of knowing, that next week Kira can't be with us.
I'm sorry. I'll miss
So-
you all terribly.
so-
We will miss you also.
But I'll be
terribly.
back as soon as I can. Thanks
And
for letting
please
me
remember,
cameo.
start paying attention to the election in Brookline 2 weeks from tomorrow. Please find out what you support and get to the polls and vote, because democracy begins at home.
Amen.
Any- oh, that's